think we're good. We're situated. It's so good to be here. Also, a heads up, my 11-month-old is having a fierce play session upstairs right now. So if you hear baby babble going on in the background and things dropping and hopefully not breaking, but possibly breaking, that's what's going on. It's all good. We've got Mary in the house. We've got Caitlin. We've got Nancy. Oh, good morning. Good morning. Good morning, ladies. What is everyone grateful for today? Type it in the comments. Let's start off. And if you know what we're talking about today, we've been talking about feeling is the secret. We're going to continue talking about that today. But to that extent, when you look at what feeling, what emotional state, just remembering that your emotions and your feelings are your body's conscious way of telling you what you're a vibrational match for. Appreciation, gratitude, wholeness is at the top of that emotional guidance scale. So if you're desiring to bring in more money, more sales, more opportunities, you must elevate your feelings to be a match for that thing that you desire. So let's start off with gratitude. What are we grateful for today? We've got Mary saying big growth. Beautiful. I love that, Mary. Yes. And I know that you are there, and I know that's happening for you. And just feeling that feeling of expansion, right? And what it feels like to be at the top of your game, the top of your class, to be offering the services and the speaking services that you're offering to your community and building your brand in that niche. Like, yes, right? That big growth, that big expansion. Good morning to you. If you're joining on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, pop me a comment. Let me know what you're grateful for. And that's also how I can see that you're here. So that would be lovely to see who is here. And gosh, people were coming in so fast on Instagram. I didn't even get to acknowledge everyone, but we've got Jennifer, we've got Laura, we've got Gail, Tara, Morgana, Mustafa. Welcome, friends. I'm so excited for today's topic. I was reading through the book this morning, and it was just like, oh, if we can just get this and what we're talking about here, everything will transform for you in your life. So I'm going to get into it. Before I do, just because I don't want to forget, if you haven't yet signed up for the challenge, the Skyrocket Your Sales Challenge, it kicks off next Tuesday, a week from tomorrow. It's going to be so good. I'm preparing it with my team for you right now. And I'm just so it's from my heart. So I really want to invite you to get registered, ElyseArcher.com/challenge. If you want to go ahead and get registered, I want to see you there. And so let's go ahead and let's get started for today. And if you just as you have questions, pop them in the comments. I think at least most people I can see here. I know you've been here before, so I know that I know you know how this works, but please pop your questions in the comments and let's get into it this morning. Laura's saying, I'm grateful for an inner awakening inside. Oh, Laura, I love that. I was thinking about you this morning and just everything that's happening for you. And that's what fuels me. Like, that is so what fuels me every single day. And I'm grateful for that too. Oh, good, Tara. I see you just texted me. Awesome. Okay. So friends, let's get into it here. So he said, so we've been talking about, how do I want to anchor in today? We're still in this first chapter, law and its operation. And I want to kind of anchor us back to where we were on Friday and what we were talking about, which is the way you can think about your mind and your brain is that you've got really these two different, if we're going to very simplify it, right? Two different parts, your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. And so the way that Neville Goddard recommends you think about it is the conscious mind is like the masculine, okay? And your subconscious is the feminine. So if we want to create a different result in our lives, if we want to create a different outcome, part of where you may feel like it's a grind, and this is how I operated for a lot of my life and didn't understand why I felt stuck, was that I was trying to create a different outcome in my life, but I had belief systems telling me I wasn't worthy, I couldn't do it. People in my family didn't do that. Can anyone resonate with that? And so, Letitia, good morning. And so what we want to do is we want to learn that if you want to way more easily create different results in your life, you got to get under the hood and you got to create a new belief system and that matches the beliefs that the person who has the results you desire would have. It's actually really quite simple. And so how do we do that? We can think about it as if you can think about it like masculine and feminine. And again, this is like I said on Friday, it's not to make it like overtly sexual, but just is what it is. It's like literally you're impregnating your subconscious mind with a new belief. So think about when we're just gonna go here today. When two people have sex and a woman gets pregnant, it is literally the impregnation of the womb with the sperm, right? These are places I never thought I would go on these lives, but here we go. Hopefully you all give me some moral support today while we go here. When the womb accepts that, when the egg it bonds with the sperm and the womb accepts it, a baby must be formed. It's the same. It is the exact same with changing your belief systems. Does this make sense? So we want to impress the new belief from the conscious mind into the subconscious. Letitia, yeah, I'm like, wow, these things are totally like ad hoc. So you never know where we're going to go. And that's where we're going today. But nature will also give us clues for a lot of how this stuff works. So where was I going with this? So your subconscious mind is like the womb. Like once the seed has been implanted in it, it will form and it will grow. It's also like the soil. You could equate it to planting a seed in the soil. This makes sense. Thank you. Awesome. So he says, so talking about the subconscious, it contemplates a feeling as a fact existing within itself, and on this assumption proceeds to give expression to it. So I want you to just think about that for a moment. Your subconscious takes a feeling as a fact. So if we want to communicate with the subconscious, we've got to learn to feel it. The way the subconscious accepts ideas is through feelings and through pictures, which is part of why visualization is important, but not just visualization, like looking at your vision board and thinking, well, that would be nice, and being totally in your logical mind about it, like in your conscious brain. That's not what we're talking about here. The way you get it from the conscious mind into the subconscious is by emotionalizing it. Is this making sense? Elizabeth, good morning. Is it like, let me know, give me a question in the comments, or like, give me a heart or yes. Is this making sense? So it's not, I was working with a client last week who has a vision of creating, like buying an Aston Martin and having a beach home and yada, yada. And this person was going to get a picture of the Aston Martin and put it on his vision board. And I was like, don't just put the picture on the vision board, Photoshop it so that you are in the Aston Martin. And then when you look at it, feel that feeling of what it's like to be in the car. So don't just see the car with you separate from it, be in the car when you are visualizing it. Laura's saying it makes sense. Okay, good. So, and what is that feeling like? So as you like see yourself inside the car from the perspective of you driving it, and what does that feel like? What's the emotion of it? Does it feel like exhilaration? Does it feel like, oh my gosh, this is my life? Does it feel like excitement? Does it feel like gratitude? And that's how we get it from the conscious. That's how you literally impregnate your subconscious with that new belief, where now it must come into form. But here's what I want you to notice too, is that because your subconscious is agnostic, because it does not matter whether you put what you want or what you don't want into it, whatever you keep as that vision in your mind and you emotionalize, it must move into form in your life. And so for those of you, my friends, who are experiencing emotions of fear, anxiety, who find yourself worrying, and worry is just negative visualization. That's all it is. Worrying about something you don't want, guess what? You're implanting that in your subconscious mind. So do we have questions on this, or are you all with me? So that's why, like, you want to be so conscious of what you're thinking about and what you're feeling at any given point in time, because it must move into form. When you move that from your conscious into your subconscious, it must move into form in your life. Thank you for the hearts. Rita, Jen, good morning. And Generation Brilliant. Okay, Letitia, you're saying with me. Beautiful. So he says, the creative process begins with an idea, and its cycle runs its course as a feeling and ends in a volition to act. It ends with volition is just will, right? It ends in a desire to act. So you want to think about thinking, feeling, action. So again, we're not saying here, now granted, there's quite an element, and this is where it gets exciting, is that as you're consciously aware of your feelings, and your feelings are just your body's conscious awareness of vibration, right? And you become a vibrational match for what you desire, other things will start to move to you. So there's a lot that you're not going to see that's happening around you as you do this, but you must also do your part, which is to act in alignment with the type of person who has what you want. So it's not just sitting there doing nothing. Although I would say if you had to pick one between acting totally out of alignment and acting out of a fearful or anxious state and not, I would say don't act, don't do anything. Get yourself in alignment with what you want, get yourself in that feeling, that vibration of gratitude, and then take action. But you must also act. But we always act based on how we're feeling, right? Like, this is why it's so important. So for so many years, and I think this is something that's really missing from a lot of trainings. I remember in my corporate sales roles, and then even going into corporate sales training with a much bigger company, it was like, it doesn't matter how you feel, do it anyway. Has anyone ever heard that? Like, your feelings don't matter? Well, they matter tremendously, because think about the difference in how you act when you feel anxious, afraid. You're in a fear state then, right? That's not a time to create. That's not a time to be expansive. That's not a time to take big, bold risks that are going to get you what you want. That's a time to conserve. That's a time to play small. And what I think the biggest mistake is, we think we can't control our feelings. Well, you absolutely can, but you must control your thoughts. You control your feelings by controlling your thoughts. Does this make sense? So when we have to learn to think thoughts of what we want, and think thoughts of what we desire, and think thoughts of the best case scenario happening. And when we think that way, how do we feel? Like, how do you, go ahead and pop in the comments for me, for those of you who are here live. When you think thoughts of being unlimited and feeling like you can do anything and thinking of best case scenario, what are some of the feelings that show up in your body? Let me know, put them in the comments, and I want to read what those are, because that I want you to think about when you act from that place, whether it's a feeling of being unlimited, whether it's a feeling of boldness, nobility, courage, confidence, grace, right? How do you act in that moment? You step up, you take bigger risks. Mary's saying joy, right? And think about just the expression, because the body is just an instrument of the mind, right? So the expression of someone who's in joy, like, what do they do? What do? They love on others. Other people can feel that. So Letitia's saying gratitude, hopeful, confident, excitement, exactly. And think about, if you went throughout your day with those being your feelings, how would you act? What would you do? And then think about what sort of results you would get. That's how it works. Oh, I love these that are coming in. Wendy's saying vibration and humming in my chest. Yes, which is your heart, your creative center. Exactly. Morgana's saying lightness, beautiful. Laura is saying love and peace. Oh, I love that. I love that. Yes. And so when we come at our day and our activities from that state, we take much more powerful action, right? And I want you to think about, if you're watching this and you lead a sales team too, because I know I have quite a few people who listen who are leaders of sales teams. What if your whole team was operating that way, right? What if they were no longer operating from a place of scarcity, fear, unworthiness, and anxiety? And what if they were operating from a place of love, peace, lightness, excitement, hopefulness, confidence? What would that do for your sales numbers? See how this all comes together. This is so important. This is the missing link. So he says, no idea can be impressed on the subconscious until it is felt. But once felt, be it good, bad, or indifferent, it must be expressed. Now think about that. No idea. So you will not, if you want to rewire a belief, you've got to feel it. You've got to feel it. You've got to feel that feeling that's in alignment with what you want. Okay. And that's kind of how you know you're doing it right. Are you just going through the motions? Like, I did that for so long. I just went through the motions because I didn't get results from my visualization, and I didn't understand why I wasn't getting results. And that was why. So, but once you emotionalize it, that's how you impress it on your subconscious. And you know you're doing it right because you start to feel better, because you actually practice and train that feeling in your body. So you start to feel better before anything shifts in your outer world. And then you start to have really cool things happen in your life. Who's had some of that start to happen? Let me know in the comments, like, who's experiencing synchronicities, who's experiencing maybe dream clients reaching out that you hadn't anticipated, who's experiencing new opportunities showing up that you're like, wait, is this my life? Right? It happens first here, and then it starts to transform. Oh, Mary's saying me. Yes, yes, yes. I can't wait to hear about those on our group call on Wednesday. Then Mary, that's awesome. Letitia's saying me. Yes, it's how it works. Everything is just, I want you to think about, like, you are the center of your own universe, and everything just radiates and ripples out from you and how you're being. Okay. It's not enough to just do differently. We must be, it all emanates out from how you're being. It's just a giant ripple, if that makes sense. Yes. Laura's saying yes. Rita's saying me. I love it. I love it. I love it. What was I here's the other thing. And I'm actually, I was working with a keynote coach this past week, working on crafting a new keynote to go in and deliver to sales teams. And we were talking about like this concept of feelings must be expressed. And when you look at it statistically, if you walk into any, and I don't have the full stats here yet because I'm pulling that together for this talk, but if you walk into any group of people, a majority of people in the room are dealing with some sort of either addiction, right? Whether it's alcoholism, pornography, gambling, work addiction, right? And how many of us have been there? I've been there. Food addiction, or some sort of a health issue as well, because any sort of health dis-ease is just those negative lower level emotions that get stuck in your bodies, and then it must be in your body, it must be expressed through the body. So if we try to suppress, and if we don't have an understanding of what these negative emotions are, which is just your body's way of telling you were just thinking a thought that's not in alignment with your higher self, with what's actually true for you, then it gets stuffed and it gets suppressed, but it must be expressed. It must come out. And so that's part of why I think this work is so important. And even if, as you're watching this, maybe that's happening for you right now. You know, a lot of I come from that background of, I've got some addiction stuff in my past. I've got family members who have addiction stuff. I have clients, like so many of us can relate to this, right? And I want to just let you know, like, there's no shame in it. This is a lot of like the human experience. But when we can learn that it's not about just taking a medication and continuing to suppress it, but it's actually about getting to the root of the issue and knowing that that's just an effect. But what's the cause? The cause is that you're suppressing and stifling. It must come out. And so what if we learned how to shift the cause? And what if we learned how to heal? And what if we learned how to become whole and feel unlimited and feel powerful? Those things would no longer be the effect. Instead, the effect is beautiful synchronicities in your life and new clients, new opportunities and money, and that's what we're going for. Are you all with me here? And again, I just want to honor wherever you are in your journey. And I work with a lot of clients too, who have parents who dealt with addiction issues or spouses. Like it's part of the human experience a lot of times, right? Thank you for the hearts. But you can heal anything. You can heal yourself. Your partner can heal themselves, your parents, like we can heal. And it's just, a lot of times people don't know this stuff. They don't know this. And that's why I'm so passionate about bringing this into as many corporations as possible and as many of your lives as possible as well. Thank you so much for the hearts. So he says, feeling is the one and only medium through which ideas are conveyed to the subconscious, the one and only medium. Therefore, the man who does not control his feeling may easily impress the subconscious with undesirable states. It's what we've been saying, right? Like the subconscious is agnostic. Whatever you plant in it must grow. By control of feeling is not meant restraint or suppression of your feeling, but rather the disciplining of self to imagine and entertain. So I'm going to come back to imagine and entertain only such feeling as contributes to your happiness. And I love that, right? So it's not that you make yourself wrong for having a negative feeling. Okay. It's not. And it's not that you just suppress it, but it's when you find yourself in it, you take it as feedback. You're like, oh, what was I know now because my thoughts create my feelings. I was just thinking a thought that is a limiting belief, right? It's not in alignment with what is actually true for me or what's true for my higher self. What's the thought I just had? Well, what would be the opposite of that, right? What would be the opposite of that? And you know that you're thinking what's in alignment with your higher self because you feel better when you say it, even if your subconscious doesn't believe it yet, because you're only going to think thoughts that are in alignment with your belief system. So this is why we got to get under the hood and rewire. Okay. Know with me, but it's when he says, I think the important word is disciplining yourself to entertain only the feelings that contribute to your happiness. And I would really think of that as only entertaining thoughts that create that higher level vibration within you. So and do you all have any questions? Like, please put them in the comments if you have a question on this. So we have to become extremely disciplined about our thoughts and about only letting ourselves go places that are of service to us. And even this, like I've done this work enough that I know how to flip it in my own mind. But even this weekend, I found myself, like yesterday morning, I was having some thoughts that weren't creating great feelings in my body, but I caught it really fast. And I knew it was like old Elyse, like old past conditioning and thought patterns. And I was able to flip them in the moment. And it was maybe 15 minutes versus what it would have taken me days or weeks previously. Okay. So it's not that you're wrong if this happens for you. It's not that this doesn't still happen. It happens to all of us. It's part of being here, right? It's part of being human, but you want to be, thank you for the hearts. You want to be aware of it. You want to learn how to flip it and only entertain the thoughts that are in alignment with the thoughts of, well, what would I be thinking if my goal was already achieved? Would I be in a fear state about this? Would I be in anxiety about it? Would I be in worry about it? No, because I would know it was already done, right? And how would I think and feel then? It's the same. He says, control of your feeling is all important to a full and happy life. So it really does matter. Control of your feeling is all important for a full and happy life. Never entertain an undesirable feeling, nor think sympathetically about wrong in any shape or form. So this is where let me read one other thing. He says, do not dwell on the imperfection of yourself or others. So if you find yourself like ruminating about what somebody else is doing that's wrong, if you find yourself, judging yourself, judging others. Hey, Lisa, good morning. It's not going to serve you, right? It puts you in that negative state. It's not worth it. And I even, I don't know how much of this do I want to go into. I had something happen recently with a vendor where it would have been easy to go on an all out like war path. This is a strong word. It would have been easy to go down a path of seeking full refund. But what I found was when I thought about that in my body, I found myself in a state of anger, negativity, resentment, etc. And it was like, none of it is worth it. And so literally I just had some of my team and reach out saying like, we trust you to do whatever you feel is right here, which is not what conventional business wisdom would say, right? Conventional business wisdom would say if someone doesn't deliver on what they promise you and they're resistant about giving a refund, like go at them and like fight for it, right? And it was like, that's not the energy and vibration I want me or my team in either. And I know the cost, I know the vibrational cost to our whole team to be focused on that versus focused on moving forward. So when we know this stuff, we can make better decisions. Does this make sense? Oh, John, good morning. I'm so glad you're here. It's good to see you. So again, do not dwell on and it's like not making anybody wrong, right? Everyone kind of has their own angle they're coming at a situation from. But anyway, hopefully that's a helpful story for this. He says, what you do not want done unto you, do not feel that it is done unto you or another. So don't spend time thinking about things you don't want. And whether that's something happening for you or happening in the world, this is why I intentionally do not watch the news. Thank you for the hearts, Lisa. Say makes total sense. If something is worth knowing about, I find out about it from someone else. But everything like news is all negative because it's designed to put you in that fear state. Like I think you all know this, but that's just one example, right? Of giving your attention to something that has nothing to do with you, that's going to put you in a negative fear state, that's going to then shift how you show up throughout the day. It's also why I don't watch scary movies anymore. I used to love horror. Like, I can't believe I'm even saying that, but we grew up my mom really loved that stuff. So we grew up as kids watching it's weird, but really scary movies and horror and Poltergeist and Exorcist. Those are some of the movies we watched all the time as kids. And she didn't know it. I didn't know it. Right. But it puts you in this fear state that then you think it doesn't have an effect on you, but I promise you it does. I promise you it does. Why do you think gun violence, right? And that's a whole nother conversation, but video games, like this stuff has an effect on you. You have to guard your thoughts and what you pay attention to. Letitia, you're saying, I don't watch the news either. Yep. Linda saying, doesn't that leave you in the dark about what's going on in the world? Linda, no. So to your question, again, if it's something that's important enough, I will find out about it from a family member or a friend. And there's like, I like to create my own, I like to focus on what's the change I'm being called to create in the world and focusing on that. So it's not that I don't know what's going, like people come and tell, but I don't need to indulge in sitting there getting into a fear state or a negative state about things. And that there's also, look, there's great services. Like I like the Skim, right? It'll give you a quick rundown, but I don't sit there and watch. I don't care what news station. It's not necessary. Laura's saying it does. I physically feel it in my body. I can't watch it. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So here we go. Every feeling makes a subconscious impression. And unless it is counteracted by a more powerful feeling of an opposite nature, must be expressed. It must be expressed. And listen to this, the dominant of two feelings is the one expressed. And so I want you to just know too, and I think we're going to wrap on this today. So it doesn't mean that every negative feeling you have will turn into something negative for you. All right. Because when I first started learning this, I was like, oh my gosh, like I don't know if anyone can relate to this, but I would get so worried. Like if I thought one negative thing and then it was just this loop. So it's not that every negative thought and feeling must turn into reality for you, but it's whatever you entertain and continue focusing on is what will be expressed. Does that make sense? So that's why we got to flip it. This is the good news, is because we live in time lag, right? There's a period of time from which you think about something and emotionalize it until it actually comes into your life. And so you got a time to switch it if you're going down the path you don't want, but you got to be really conscious of like switching it as fast as you notice it so that doesn't go on and manifest in your life. Lisa's saying, I read the news selectively. I consciously have made a decision to create good news. Yes, exactly. Rather than spending time on ruminating on bad news. Exactly. And so I think it's like to each their own. Like, I'm not saying watching the news is wrong, but I'm just saying for me personally, I choose to receive it other ways because the way in which it's delivered by most mainstream media is not helpful, in my opinion. This comes from someone with a journalism background. Okay. So I'm not hating on the news. I'm just saying for me, it doesn't work. Let's see here. Mary's saying negative emotions can be indirectly positive, goes with what I'm learning in positive psychology. Interesting. So Mary, we're actually join again tomorrow. We're wrapping up for today. I've got a team meeting in a minute. But I'd love to hear more about that tomorrow. Laura's saying, I believe a negative thought allows me to get in touch with my inner self and seeing how I shift to a new thought. Exactly. They are like, they can serve you, right? So it's not saying that you don't want to have a negative thought or a negative feeling. No, you have to have that contrast to know what the opposite is. You can't find out what you want if you don't know what you don't want. But it's just knowing how to control it. That's what this whole thing is, knowing how to control it and shift it and use the negative to get you to the positive of what you desire. All right. So friends, so good. So good to be here with you today. Again, if you haven't yet signed up for next week's challenge, ElyseArcher.com/challenge, get yourself registered, skyrocket your sales. I am grateful. I am so grateful for you being here. And I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. Mwah! So much love. See you all soon. Bye.